Tesla has set all kinds of records at the end of Q3. Most cars sold, most cars made, most Model 3 cars made per week, most lawsuits settled with SEC. I mean, all kinds of records, and they're all looking very good. And to most of us, they're pretty impressive, the numbers that are coming out, except for maybe the stock market. I think they're not as impressed. Also, let's talk about some records set in Norway. That country is kicking some butt with electric car sales. And let's talk about the version 9 software that's been rolling out to some of the test vehicles and a bit of a step back that they needed to take this week per Elon's tweet. All of this is coming up next.
Taking over the world, electrifying the world, electric.
Welcome to those of you who are watching me live on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/e4electric so you can watch me live, so you can get the extra mile, which is a segment that I do right after the show. Just chat with those of you guys who are my Patreons. And of course, if this is your first time here, welcome. If you're interested in staying up to date on everything that's going on in the world of electric cars, which is more and more and more with every day, it's hard to keep up with that. That's why I do it for you. And that's why there's a subscribe button there. Just click on it, and that way you won't miss anything moving forward. And it's free. All right, let's get going with the numbers from Tesla. As we know, the SEC lawsuit has been settled just in time for what really is the real news, which is a good news. Let's talk about the numbers. Tesla made 80,000 cars in Q3. That's a lot. 83,500 were sold, which I know sounds a little weird, but as you know, there are always cars on the road, and I guess they had more on the road at the end of Q2 that they have now. So that's what so that's why that is. And out of those 83,500 sold, 55,840 were Model 3s. And I probably should have done this before the show, but I'm gonna whip out my little calculator and calculate how many that is per week on average. I'm gonna divide it by, what is it, 12? Well, let's just go, okay, let's go be generous and say 12 weeks. And we got about 4,500 per week, which is, by the way, higher than most people were reported. I'm actually surprised to see this number. But they did not achieve 5,000 per week on average. And actually, Elon was targeting 6,000. Him and his big mouth, right? When he said it, I was like, oh, don't. So yeah, so they did reach the record number of Model 3s made per week, which is 5,300, but this is only, what, second or third time they're even passing the $5,000 mark. Obviously, the production hasn't been ramped up all the way to where they want to be, which is 5,000, and again, 6,000. So that's all, really, really good news. Let's see, I'm looking at some other numbers. Over 10,000 drive units per week made, which is kind of ahead of everything. But that means that, some parts of their production is ramped up all the way to 10,000, and they're just going to wait for the rest of it to catch up. As we know, they've eliminated some colors because they knew that the bottleneck was in their paint shop, and I guess they couldn't figure it out, so they figured, they just kicked some of them out. That should definitely speed things up. And then they sold about, 27,000 of them, almost 27,000 were Model S and Model X cars. So all of these numbers are absolutely amazing. If you think about it, I think they just literally doubled the number of Model 3s they were producing. 50%, I think, increase from the Q2 just overall with cars. And of course, by far, most sold electric car, and now they're outselling BMW 3 Series, and a lot of, they're just outselling everybody, and things are getting better and better. But just like I said, the stock market is not that impressed because, what Elon promised them, they're not getting. They're not, he was close, but they're not getting. Though it is definitely good news that the stock market, you know what? Let me pause here, and before I talk about the SEC settlement and the stock price, let me just remind you guys that this show and this channel is sponsored by Evanex, the aftermarket accessories for Teslas. There's a discount code in the description of this video. Just go ahead and grab it and buy yourself stuff and save some money. I have a few things on my Tesla which I enjoy, and that's why they're sponsors, because I enjoy their product too. All right, let's talk about stock price. Now, by the way, this chart, you know what it reminds me of? When they have like pimple commercials and they show you how pimples are formed? Well, this pimple was whole SEC settlement that Elon didn't want to take, and then he took. So essentially the stock reacted, holy crap, Elon could be out as the CEO, to, oh, okay, I guess he's staying. And so that's why. But of course that feeds the shorts, right? the very same people that Elon despises and why he got himself in all this trouble. But anyway, now the stock, as you can see, about what, 2% down right now, and we're about almost at the end of the trading. So stock market wasn't that impressed, but again, because Elon promised them a lot and they didn't necessarily reach that goal. Well, they didn't reach that goal. But for us, for the common folk, this is still very impressive. You know, there's so many, almost 100,000 Model 3s out there. Actually, they might have actually crossed that that milestone. Absolutely amazing. I see him all the time. I was just in the Bay Area yesterday for the Silicon Valley Reinvents the Wheel event, and once again got reminded how many Teslas are in the Bay Area. By the way, got to interview CTO of Lucid Motors. I'm gonna put it up there on a Saturday, so check that out. Very interesting. They're kind of coming back for, you know, to kind of a second chance, coming back to life. All right, let's talk about the V9 version 9 software that Elon has been, well, Tesla has been rolling out. There are some little issues, I guess they need to figure out, and this is one of the responses that he posted on Twitter. Now, apparently, the lane change feature where, originally what was rolled out is that it will do it by itself if it has the navigation on and it knows where it needs to go. But now it's kind of back to where driver has to confirm it before the lane change happens. A lot of people were excited about that feature. I guess they're rolling it back, and now they're going to look at how their side cameras are interpreting the road and stuff like that. I'm assuming it's not going to be included, I guess, since I'm assuming, found some issues and rolled it back, but it is obviously something they're going to roll out in the future. So, but they are rolling it out to the test fleet, whoever they are, definitely not me, and it definitely looks near. A lot of people are impressed. I already told you guys that, my impression of it, I'm really, really happy with some of the features and kind of disappointed with others, but you can watch that video separately. Nevertheless, it is a huge upgrade and a step forward. First time in 2 years they've had this major release. A lot of people are looking forward to that, and so am I. All right, let's talk about Norway. As you know, that little country has been basically a little heaven paradise of where we're all going. Their electric car sales have been amazing, and once again, they beat the record in September. It looks like 45% of all of the cars sold in Norway, 45% are all electric cars. Total all electric and plug-in hybrids, 60%. That is amazing. I mean, this is where we're all going. Just so you know, around the world, it's only like a few percentage or so, right? And these guys are literally kicking butt. It's amazing. They do have an aggressive goal of just completely getting rid of gas car sales by 2025. Everybody thought it was crazy, but it looks like it's not crazy at all. They might even beat this aggressive goal if they're going to be going at this rate. And may I remind you that there's no Model 3 available there yet. And not obviously none of other cars are coming out like e-tron, EQC, and I-Pace and so forth are really been on the market there. So the number one car sold is Nissan Leaf up to date, but in the month of September it was Tesla Model X. That was number one all-electric car sold there. So Norway is kicking butt. That is really, really good news. And they've been really kind of our future paradise that we kind of all been watching and admiring. So definitely good news from there. Tomorrow I'll tell you a little bit more about, not a little bit more, all of the numbers are going to be in for the September sales for all electric and plug-in hybrids. I always use InsideEVs.com for that. So we're going to talk about those numbers. But let me move on to comment of the day. And this one is about the video that I posted yesterday, which was my interview with the head of communications of Ionity, the basically up and coming network, kind of a alternative to Tesla superchargers in Europe. Now, Pete Rihoy, he is saying, this is obviously great news for those wishing to own an EV in Europe at the moment, but it is very important, and it's very important, but, there's a second but there with big letters, we will need other companies to come into the market and provide competition. Totally agree. Competition is a must. It's always a good thing. But there is some. There are, let's remember, it's BP, I think, and Shell that have already bought some of the competitor networks. EcoCity, I think, Electricity or something like that. I should have really prepared for the shells, right? In Great Britain, that's been kicking butt. I think they're the ones who got bought by one of the gas companies, not to kill them, to actually develop them. I believe there's two more up-and-coming networks. Some of them already as well invested by the major manufacturers, legacy manufacturers mainly. So Ionity is not just going to be the one. They're the biggest one in terms of their plans, and they already started building out their stations. And I'm very excited. So they definitely do have competition. This is not going to be the only answer or an alternative to Tesla superchargers. Now here in the United States and Canada, that's a whole different story. Tesla superchargers, the only alternative that's going to be growing is the Electrify America with $2 billion investment from Volkswagen as a penalty, as one of the many penalties for the Dieselgate, and really that's pretty much it. We do have EVgo. They do have charging stations, fast charging stations here and there. They just kind of formed this little a corridor on the East Coast with Nissan, which was kind of impressive. So like a mini supercharger network, I guess. Not all of them are really that high speed chargers, but nevertheless good attempt. But other companies like, ChargePoint and Blink, they've kind of turned into a joke. I mean, they'll charge you slowly at a really high price and a high rate, but they have not made any significant efforts to have a fast charging network throughout. Even California, forget about the whole country. So we're definitely behind here in North America, but in Europe, there are quite a few competitors. So good point, Pete, and thank you for your comment. Let me also give a shout out. I think I forgot to do that, but let me also give you a shout out to some of the new Patreons here. And first of all, welcome to Michael Hampson. And I probably shouldn't have done that. But Michael Hampson, thank you so much for becoming a Patreon. And Eric Comer, he was already a Patreon at $5 a month, which is the max. That's where you get all the benefits. He decided to double that to $10. Eric, you're awesome. Thank you so much. If you want to support the show, watch it live, watch the extra mile, which we're going to do just as soon as I sign off here on YouTube. Go ahead and go to patreon.com/E4Electric. Thank you so much for supporting it. And the extra mile will start right after I wrap up here, which is pretty much just about now. So I will see you guys tomorrow. And remember to stay charged.